Let me tell you something that changed the entire trajectory of my life. Learning to say no. Not learning how to manage my time better, not learning another technique, but learning the simple, powerful, and sometimes uncomfortable art of saying no. You see, every yes you give is a trade, and you'd better be careful what you're trading for, because time doesn't come back. Focus, once divided, takes energy to gather again, and energy, once scattered, loses its edge. The people who live effective lives, who build wealth, wisdom, peace of mind, they aren't the ones who say yes to everything. They're the ones who say no to almost everything so they can say yes to the right things. Discipline isn't just about waking up early or working late. No, real discipline is at the door of decision. It's in that moment when someone asks for your time, and you know deep down you shouldn't give it. But you're tempted to say yes. Why? Because it's easier, it feels kinder, it avoids conflict, but it also avoids truth. You must develop the strength to say no, not with anger, not with arrogance, but with clarity. And here's something I learned the hard way. When you say yes to please others, you're often betraying yourself. You can't build a strong life with a weak yes. Say no and say it like you mean it. Some people will be disappointed. That's okay. You're not building your life to keep everyone happy. You're building your life to make it count. You don't owe everyone access to your energy. If you keep giving pieces of yourself to everything and everyone, don't be surprised when there's nothing left for the things that matter most. Save your yes for your purpose. Save your yes for your mission. Because saying no today creates space. Space to breathe, space to think, space to grow, and most importantly, space to say yes when the right opportunity knocks. Now listen closely to this part. The life you want, the peace, the impact, the results, it's hidden behind a door. And that door says no on it, not to everything, but to the wrong things. And unless you learn to say no to what doesn't serve your purpose, you'll never reach what does. Saying no is not shutting the world out. It's choosing what comes in. And that choice, that power, is entirely in your hands. Every time you say yes, you're making a trade, and whether you realize it or not, you're always giving something up in the exchange. Time, energy, focus, peace of mind. None of these are unlimited. And once they're spent, you don't get a refund. People often say yes without thinking. They say yes to every invitation, yes to every distraction, yes to things that don't move them an inch closer to their goals. Why? Because they don't understand the price they're paying. See, life is built on transactions, not just money transactions, but time, effort, attention. Every yes is you handing over a slice of your life. So the question is, was it worth the slice? You've got to become more conscious of your yes. Before you say it, pause and ask, what am I giving in exchange for this? Because even good things can become bad deals if the timing is wrong or the cost is too high. You might be saying yes to help someone, and that's noble, but if it costs you the time to take care of your own health, your own family, your own growth, what have you really gained? You can't give from an empty cup. You can't serve anyone well if your own foundation is cracking. Successful people don't just value their time. They guard it like treasure. They don't just say yes because it feels good in the moment. They weigh the decision. They ask, does this align with my purpose? Does this build toward my future? Or am I just saying yes because I'm afraid to say no? The truth is, the wrong yes can delay your destiny. It can distract your mind, drain your energy, and detour your momentum. Not because it was evil, but because it simply wasn't essential. And here's what happens. The more careless you are with your yes, the more regret you stack up. You begin to wonder where your time went, where your drive disappeared, why you feel so tired and so behind. And often, it's because you made too many trades that weren't worth it. So if you want to rise, if you want to grow, you've got to become a master trader. You've got to weigh each yes like a gold coin. Hold it up to the light and ask, what am I giving away? And what am I truly getting in return? Is this a seed, or is this a leak? Discipline doesn't start at 5 a.m. with a cold shower. It doesn't start in the gym or at the desk or on the treadmill. No, discipline begins at the door of decision. That moment when a choice presents itself is where the real battle is fought, not later. Right then, in the quiet space between yes and no, that's the birthplace of discipline. You don't become disciplined by accident. You become disciplined by deciding to follow through when it's easier to back out. Deciding to say no to what's comfortable and yes to what's necessary. Deciding to turn down what's urgent in favor of what's important. See, every decision is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. And the world is constantly placing options in front of you. Some are easy, some are tempting, some are loud, but most of them, they pull you away from the path, not closer to it. And that's where discipline steps in. Not with fanfare, not with applause, but with a quiet strength. It whispers, not this, not now, not you. And if you listen, if you obey that small voice, you build something powerful, self-respect, because every time you choose discipline over distraction, you stack confidence. You say to yourself, I can trust me, and that's the foundation of every successful life, trusting yourself to make the harder choice when it counts. But most people, they wait for motivation. They want to feel ready. They want a sign. Let me tell you, discipline doesn't wait for a feeling. It stands at the crossroads, arms crossed, and says, you already know what to do. Now do it. The secret to success isn't buried in a book you haven't read or a mentor you haven't met. It's in that decision you keep postponing, that hard call you keep avoiding, that daily action you keep delaying. Discipline is not a once-a-week event. It's moment by moment, choice by choice. And every time you choose what's right over what's easy, you gain an edge over who you used to be, an edge over who the world says you should settle for. An edge that sharpens your mind, your habits, your results. So the next time you face a decision, pause. Don't ask what's easier. Ask what builds me, because that's where discipline lies. Not in the outcome, but at the very threshold, the moment before the first step is taken. There's something powerful, something noble, about a clear, firm no. And not angry, not defensive, just clear, because clarity is strength. And character is built when you stand for something, even when it costs you a little comfort. You see, people think saying yes is always the kind thing to do, but it's not kindness if it comes from fear. It's not kindness if it betrays your own values just to avoid a little awkwardness. That's not strength. That's surrender dressed up as politeness. Every week, yes, chips away at your foundation. You give a little here, you compromise a little there, and before long, your life is filled with commitments that don't reflect your convictions. You find yourself saying, how did I get here? One soft yes at a time. But a strong no, that's different. A strong no is forged in self-respect. It's the mark of someone who knows where they're going and refuses to be pulled off course by guilt, pressure, or public opinion. Character isn't shaped when everyone's cheering you on. It's shaped when you have to say no, and you know it's going to disappoint someone. But you say it anyway because it's the right thing, because your future matters more than someone else's momentary approval. Now let me tell you something. People may not always like your no. They may push back. They may call you cold, distant, difficult. But here's the truth. People who respect themselves don't fear being misunderstood in the short term. They play the long game, and over time the world begins to recognize the strength behind that clarity. You don't need to explain every no. You don't need to justify every boundary, you just need to be rooted, firm in who you are, and honest about what you value. That kind of integrity creates gravity. It pulls the right people into your life and filters out the ones who only liked you for your compliance. Remember, every yes makes a promise, and if you keep making promises you don't intend to keep, just to keep the peace, you're not building peace at all. You're building resentment, quiet, slow, but always growing underneath the surface. So when the pressure comes, and it will, and you're tempted to say yes just to keep things smooth, take a breath. Ask yourself, will this yes build me or bury me? Because saying no, when it's the truth, will do more to build your life than 1,000 yesies said just to stay liked. One of the most freeing truths you'll ever learn is this: you don't owe everyone access to your energy. Your energy, your attention, your time, your focus, that's your power, that's your fuel, and like any valuable resource, it must be managed, not wasted. Just because someone asks for your time doesn't mean they're entitled to it. Just because someone wants your ear doesn't mean they deserve your mind. You see, people will pull on you, not always out of malice. Sometimes it's just neediness. Sometimes it's their own chaos spilling into your space. But your job, your responsibility, is to protect the flame, because if your flame goes out, who will you light? You can't pour into others when you're empty. You can't lift someone else while you're being pulled in 10 different directions. That's not service, that's self-destruction. There's a difference between being generous and being reckless. Generosity is intentional, it's thoughtful, but recklessness, that's when you say yes to everyone until there's nothing left of you. And then you wonder why you're tired, unmotivated, short-tempered, stretched thin. It's because you gave access to people who only took and never added. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. Not everyone who wants to be around you is good for you. Some people drain you, some confuse you, some make noise but bring no value. You've got to learn to recognize that, and when you do, don't apologize for stepping back. Your life doesn't belong to everyone. Your peace is not public property. Your goals are not community projects. If someone doesn't respect your boundaries, they're showing you that they were never interested in you, just in what they could take from you. And that's where wisdom comes in, because wisdom doesn't just build things, it guards them. It knows that access must be earned, not handed out freely. It knows that closeness is a privilege, not a right. So you've got to start asking yourself, who drains me and who develops me? Who distracts me and who directs me? Because the answers to those questions determine the speed and strength of your growth. You don't have to cut people off harshly, but you do have to start curating your circle. You do have to start saying, not now, not this, not today. Not because you're selfish, but because you finally understand the value of your energy. Opportunity doesn't always knock with a big sign on the door. Sometimes opportunity whispers, and if your life is too noisy, too crowded with obligations you never should have said yes to, you won't even hear it. That's why it's so important to understand this simple truth. Every time you say no, today to what's good, but not great, you create space for something better to arrive tomorrow. Too many people say yes too soon. They say yes because it looks shiny, sounds urgent, or feels flattering in the moment. But remember, not every open door leads to a better room. Some lead to detours, some lead to distractions, some lead to delays that cost you years. And it's hard to admit that because the world teaches you to grab everything, take every deal, answer every message, join every meeting, accept every favor, but life, a meaningful life, is not built on how much you say yes to. It's built on the wisdom to say no at the right time. You see, the power of no isn't rejection, it's redirection. When you say no to things that aren't aligned, you're telling the world, I'm waiting for the right fit. I'm holding the line for something that actually deserves my time, my gifts, my focus. And that waiting, it's not passive. It's active preparation. It's becoming the person who can handle the yes when it finally arrives. Because if you say yes too soon, before you're ready, before it's right, you'll sabotage the very thing you've been hoping for. Think about a farmer. He doesn't plant seeds in a field that's already full of weeds and junk. He clears it first, prepares it, makes room. That's what saying no does. It clears your calendar, clears your mind, clears your energy. It creates room for quality, because here's the secret. You don't just attract what you want, you attract what you're ready for, and readiness requires space. If your life is jammed with second-hand commitments, you won't have the bandwidth to respond when the real door opens. So when someone asks you to take something on, before you answer, ask yourself, if I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? Because you're always saying no to something. And if you don't choose it on purpose, you might be saying no to your health, your peace, your progress, or your purpose. A good no today protects your best yes tomorrow. Don't sell your future just to avoid an awkward conversation. Don't trade long-term gain for short-term approval. The life you really want, the one you can feel in your bones, it's not built on busyness, it's built on clarity, and clarity means having the courage to say, if you're still not living the life you want, chances are, it's not because you haven't said the right yes. It's because you haven't said the right no. The future you dream about, the peace you crave, the focus you envy in others, it's all there, but it's hidden, and what's blocking it? A pile of things you should have said no to a long time ago. The life you want doesn't just require new habits, it demands new standards, and the gatekeepers to those standards are the no's you're afraid to say, the no to distractions, the no to draining relationships, the no to short-term pleasure at the expense of long-term gain, the no to guilt-based decisions, the no to being everyone's helper while you're falling apart quietly in the background. See, people think their breakthrough will come from learning a new strategy. But often, what they really need is the courage to stop what's no longer serving them. Let me tell you, it's not easy. Saying no can be uncomfortable. It can come with silence, with raised eyebrows, with disappointment. But so what? A moment of discomfort is a cheap price to pay for a life of alignment. You've got to stop fearing the friction. Start fearing the regret. Because what's more painful than saying no to someone else is living every day as a stranger to your own potential. You already know what needs to go. You can feel it. The commitment that drains you. The conversation you dread. The project you took out of obligation, not purpose. But you keep carrying it because you're afraid. Afraid of what people will think. Afraid of burning a bridge. Afraid of looking selfish. But what if I told you that your next level is waiting on the other side of that very fear? That the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the boldness to say no, clean and clear, not with attitude, not with arrogance, just with certainty. No need to explain, no need to defend. Just no, not for me, not anymore. You don't rise by pleasing everyone. You rise by protecting your mission. And sometimes that protection sounds like, no, I can't take that call today. No, I'm not available for that meeting. No, I don't have space for that kind of energy right now. No, I'm not going to trade my peace for your urgency. Because here's the truth. When you don't say no to what drains you, you delay what's meant to build you. And there are opportunities, big, beautiful, life-changing opportunities, waiting on the other side of your boundaries. But they won't show up until you create the space, until you make it clear through your choices that you're ready, not just to say yes to the right thing, but to finally say no to the wrong ones, that your life, your future, your peace, your growth, is not just shaped by what you say yes to. It's carved, molded, and protected by the things you've had the wisdom, the courage, and the discipline to say no to. Discipline begins at the moment of decision, and every time you face a fork in the road, you get a chance to strengthen your character or weaken it. It doesn't take long, just one choice at a time. A weak yes might feel good in the moment, but a clear no lasts longer. It builds boundaries, it builds self-respect. It builds the kind of foundation that success can actually stand on. And don't forget, you don't owe everyone access to your energy. You're not required to light every fire that people bring into your life. Your energy is a gift, a tool, a sacred resource. Spend it with intention. Because when you say no to the wrong things today, you create margin for the right things tomorrow, and eventually you realize the life you really want was never out of reach. It was simply waiting on the other side of a few honest, overdue no's. So I'll leave you with this. If you want to go higher, you have to go lighter. And to go lighter, you'll have to say no. Not to hurt others, but to honor your purpose. Say no to distraction. Say no to guilt. Say no to the version of you that settles, because in that no is the space where your best yes begins.